Imagine being born into a world where your purpose is already decided. You are a samurai. From childhood, you are trained to master the sword. You are taught discipline before you learn comfort. You are taught loyalty before you understand fear. Welcome to True History Show. This is Ishan. Your life is built around a code Bushido, the way of the warrior. Honor is everything. Reputation is eternal. And if disgrace ever touches your name, death is not tragedy, it is dignity. Now imagine waking up one morning and being told that your entire way of life is obsolete, that your sword is illegal, that your status is gone, that the world you were trained to defend no longer exists. This is the story of the last samurai of Japan. Not just the story of one man, but the story of an era collapsing under the weight of modernity. For over 200 years, Japan lived in relative isolation under the Tokugawa shogunate. Beginning in the early 1600s, the country closed itself off from most of the outside world. Foreign influence was tightly controlled, Christianity was banned, trade was limited. Peace, however, was maintained. And at the center of this carefully ordered society stood the samurai, originally warriors forged in centuries of civil war. The samurai evolved into an elite ruling class. They were administrators, scholars, and military officers. They had the exclusive right to carry two swords, the katana and the wakizashi, symbols of their identity. They received stipends from their lords. They upheld a strict social hierarchy. But peace brought an unexpected problem. Without constant warfare, many samurai became bureaucrats rather than fighters. Their martial skills became ceremonial. Their honor code remained powerful, but the battlefield disappeared. For generations, the samurai identity remained intact, even as its original purpose faded. Then, in 1853, everything changed. American Commodore Matthew Perry arrived in Japan with steam-powered warships, black ships as the Japanese called them. He demanded that Japan open its ports to American trade. The display of military power was unmistakable. Japan could either negotiate or be forced. The illusion of isolation shattered. Japanese leaders quickly realized that Western nations possessed advanced technology, industrial capacity, and modern military strength. China had already suffered humiliating defeats at the hands of Western powers. If Japan did not modernize, it risked colonization. This fear triggered one of the most dramatic transformations in modern history. The Meiji Restoration of 1868. Power was restored to the emperor. The old feudal order began to dismantle. The new leadership had a clear goal: rapid modernization. Railways were built, factories rose, Western-style education was introduced. Most importantly, a modern national army was created, modeled after European forces. And this is where the samurai began to disappear. The new government could not build a modern state while preserving feudal privilege. Samurai stipends were reduced and eventually abolished. The exclusive right to carry swords was revoked. In 1876, the Haitore Edict formally banned the public wearing of swords. For centuries, the sword had been the soul of the samurai. Now it was illegal. Worse still, the government introduced universal conscription. Any male citizen, regardless of class, could serve in the army. Farmers and merchants, once considered beneath the warrior class, now stood as equals in uniform. The samurai were no longer necessary. Many adapted. Some entered politics, business, or the new military structure, but thousands felt betrayed. Their loyalty had helped restore imperial power, yet the very system they fought to create was dismantling them. Among them was a man named Saigo Takamori. Saigo was not a fringe rebel from the beginning. He had been instrumental in overthrowing the Tokugawa shogunate. He believed in strengthening Japan. He supported restoring the emperor. He was respected, influential, and deeply committed to national honor. But as reforms accelerated, Saigo grew uneasy. Modernization, he believed, was essential, but total abandonment of tradition was not. He feared that Japan was trading its spirit for Western approval. Samurai values, loyalty, courage, sacrifice were being dismissed as relics. Tensions escalated throughout the 1870s. Discontented former samurai gathered in regions like Satsuma, Saigo's home domain. Military academies were formed. Frustration simmered. In 1877, that frustration exploded into open rebellion. The Satsuma Rebellion began with approximately 30,000 samurai under Saigo's leadership. They marched toward Tokyo, not necessarily to overthrow the emperor, but to challenge the direction of the government. Facing them was the newly formed Imperial Japanese Army, modern, conscripted, equipped with rifles, artillery, and machine guns. The contrast could not have been sharper. On one side, traditional warriors carrying swords, some armed with outdated firearms, fighting for honor and identity. On the other, a disciplined, industrialized military representing the future. At first, the samurai demonstrated remarkable skill and determination. Close quarters combat favored their training, their morale was strong, their cause felt righteous. But modern warfare is not romantic. Machine guns do not care about honor. Artillery does not respect tradition. As the months passed, the rebellion weakened, supplies dwindled, ammunition ran low. The government forces, backed by industrial production and superior logistics, steadily advanced. By September 1877, the rebellion had collapsed to a final stand at Shiroyama. Saigo Takamori and a few hundred remaining samurai faced tens of thousands of government troops. They were surrounded. Artillery bombarded their position throughout the night. At dawn, the final assault began. The samurai charged. It was not a strategic maneuver, it was a statement. They knew they would lose. But surrender would mean humiliation. Capture would mean dishonor. Death in battle was consistent with their code. During the fighting, Saigo was wounded. Accounts differ on the exact details of his death. Some say he committed seppuku. Others say a trusted follower beheaded him to preserve his honor and prevent his capture. What is certain is this: Saigo Takamori died that morning, and with him, the samurai era ended. The Satsuma Rebellion was crushed. The government's authority was secured. The message was clear: there would be no return to feudalism. Japan continued its rapid transformation. Within decades, it would defeat China in war. Soon after, it would defeat Russia, becoming the first Asian power in modern history to overcome a European empire in battle. Modernization had succeeded, but something had been sacrificed. Ironically, the same government that defeated Saigo later rehabilitated his image. He was posthumously pardoned. A statue of him was erected in Tokyo. He was remembered not as a traitor, but as a tragic patriot. Why? Because nations need myths as much as they need railways. Saigo Takamori became a symbol of integrity in an age of change. He represented resistance to dishonor, even when history moved forward without him. The phrase "the last samurai" does not mean he was literally the final man to carry a sword. It means he embodied the last moment when the old world stood defiantly against the new. His story forces a deeper question. Is progress always worth its cost? Japan's modernization prevented colonization. It secured sovereignty. It built industry, education, and military strength. From a strategic perspective, the Meiji reforms were necessary. But modernization is rarely painless. When societies transform, identities shatter, occupations vanish, traditions fade, some adapt, some resist, some become legends. The samurai were not simply warriors. They were a worldview, a belief that honor outweighed life, that loyalty defined purpose, that discipline created dignity. Modern Japan replaced swords with rifles, but it did not entirely abandon those values. Discipline, national pride, and collective identity continued in new forms. The spirit survived, even as the class disappeared. That is the true tragedy and the true legacy of the last samurai. He did not fight to preserve the past forever. He fought to ensure it would not be forgotten. In the end, Saigo Takamori stood at a crossroads between two Japons, one built on hierarchy and steel, the other built on factories and firearms. History chose the future. But it still remembers the man who chose honor. The last samurai fell on a battlefield, yet the idea he represented, courage in the face of unstoppable change, remains timeless, because every nation at some point must decide what it will keep from its past and what it is willing to lose in order to survive. If you enjoyed the video, please like and share, and subscribe to the True History Show. Turn on notifications. See you in the next video.